Thank you, Frank.
Man. Thank you. Am I on? Okay, I pushed the right button. You know, when Terry first asked me to come up, I was thinking about the many years in ministry and how we started out, and there was a lot of times I'd get people, you know, talking about missions and saying, no, I could never do that. I would not go. And I had to share with them that God doesn't work that way. If He wants to send you, He will prepare you, and you will have a peace when you step out. I remember when Bernice and I first went to Juarez. We'd never been to El Paso or Juarez. Didn't really know where we were going, but we got over to El Paso, and then we walked across the bridge into Juarez. And at that time, there was probably about a city of about 900,000. Right now, it's at 1.5 million. It's amazing. Once you reach the first million, it doesn't take long to double at that point. But we just wandered in, found a cab, and to the best of our ability in the Spanish, it was we could get by, but we definitely were not really good at it. So it took about maybe 2 hours of running around trying to figure out where these people lived, because a lot of the streets down there don't really they exist on the map, but there's no sign saying this is the street you're on. And so it was quite a challenge for a while. They've gotten better now. And so it's a little easier to find things, but of course a lot more dangerous now, especially down in Juarez. There's a lot of problems going on. And so when you go in there, you just know your destination and you go directly to it. You don't stop and just wander around, because it's not really good for your health. So we going into a little bit to excuse me, what I was starting to say, that that peace that God gives you allows you to just go into the middle of something that, if you're worried about it or look at all the surroundings without that trust in God, you're not going to want to do it. And so when God calls you, He just brings that peace. He gives you that willingness. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but in the Great Commission, to go, it's a word used a few times, I think 3 or 4 times in the Bible, but the only place in the Bible where it is used in an imperative case is in the Great Commission. That means it isn't a suggestion, it's an urgency. And 2,000 years ago, it was an urgency. So right now we can see what's happening in the world, and it's even more and more of an urgency. But if you feel like God is leading you someplace, when we first started, we left we were with More Ministries in California, working in Mexico. And when we left, we were going to take 6 months to a year, or about a year, to just take time off to regroup, to figure out what we were going to do. And within, I think it was 3 or 4 months, God already had us serving. But what we were doing was we were waiting for God to provide so that we could go. And it's real easy to go if God has provided everything. It doesn't take much faith. So, and what we realized was that God was waiting for us to go so that He could provide. And He always has provided, many times right down to the wire. But it always, those funds or whatever we need came in just in time for us to do it. So it's always on His schedule, not yours. But to be able to just take that step of faith makes a world of difference. And He just gives us the confidence to do it. He just takes that fear out of you and puts that peace in and gives you that confidence of knowing that if we obey this, we're going to be okay. And I was just looking back at these things and what we had done over the years and thinking about them. And for the average person, that would have been crazy. It just wouldn't have made sense. But we had the peace of God, and the fact that we didn't know what we were doing was another beginning into that. We became missionaries and really didn't understand what it was all about and how we were supposed to act. So we learned as we did, and hopefully you learned from your mistakes. And he kept us going all those years, just gradually filling in the blanks and allowing us to accomplish things that we would have never been able to accomplish. Just a little bit on Mexico. We had worked down there for years, bringing school supplies in, working with orphanages, working with drug rehabilitation centers, and it was quite successful. And fortunately, the businesses in Kenya and companies and other groups just wanted to start doing what we were doing. So we felt this was great progress. So we stepped back from that and let them work with their own people. And that's, but we continued now to work with one pastor he was actually here a few years ago, Pastor Ernesto. And he and his church worked down with the Tarahumara Indians in Secrechi, down by Copper Canyon. They're a group, I don't know if they're tall, thin, they're runners and stuff. So during, sports events and stuff like that, triathlons or anything, they will run them. But we have been able to keep working with Pastor Ernesto, and now he has, what has been wonderful is his church started that outreach down there. It's about a 9-hour drive down, and they were taking adult groups down to be with them. And then one of these last trips, they took one of their youth members down. And he was so excited when they came back that they've started taking literally youth down there to be able to be missionaries to the people in southern Mexico or farther down. So it's been a great privilege to work with them. We're just coming alongside of them because we didn't have to encourage them to go. They already were doing that. So we've come behind them. Actually, that expedition that DeNike Ministries had for many years, that we took people or groups with, we turned it over to him about 3 years ago. Matter of fact, it turned 200,000 miles when he was driving it back to Juarez. But it's been working great. We've had most of our vehicles, we get 350, 400,000 out of them before we get rid of them. And it's been quite successful. And what he's loved about it is that expedition was on a truck frame. So they can load it with all sorts of weight and a whole bunch of people and take it down to Mexico, down to Secrechi. And the first time they did, they started hearing this rattling when they were going down, and they finally got down there and realized one of the arms on the suspension system was 2 bolts were out. Why it didn't fall off, they weren't sure, but there wasn't any AutoZones or anything down there. The pastor did have a bunch of nuts and bolts, so they found one and put into it and drove it all the way back up to Juarez. And they took it to a garage in Juarez, and the mechanic just shook his head. He said that, first of all, that bolt that was in there wasn't the right one, wasn't really doing that much of anything, and why it was still, because if that had dropped, that one wheel would have, just folded down, and they would have been in serious problems. So it's just an example of how God just literally protects people when you've got His protection on you. It's amazing what you can do, and the wheel that should have collapsed didn't. And so we're blessed, and he's been using it for 3 years now, and it runs absolutely great. And I'm planning on another 100,000 on it at least. So that's where we are with the indigenous tribes in Mexico. We had a couple of years ago, I'd written a letter. They had the tribes down there had a meeting, and they all came up to Copper Canyon from all over Mexico, these different Indian tribes. And then we had actually 2 tribes from the United States came in. And they had a wonderful, all strong Christians. And it was just, they said it was just an awesome time to be able to come together and see them praising and worshiping God and being able to unite as indigenous people, to unite even with those in the United States. So we felt privileged to be just a small part of that by, giving them extra resources so that they can accomplish. And just recently I was at the convention, the ISOM, or not the ISOM, but the IA meeting over in independent assemblies over in by Oklahoma City. And one of the pastors there, I was just mentioning when we were each had a turn to speak, and I'd mentioned that I was also worked in Mexico. And he came up to me and he said, years ago, this pastor, I had gone down to visit the Tarahumara Indians. And he said, do you know of anybody or any way we could do that? Do you know of them? And well, I had not mentioned that at all, but it worked out, and I've got him in contact with them where he's going to bring a group down to Juarez, and then they're going to go down on a trip with a few people from his church and stuff. So you just never know where these contacts come in and what happens. But I just happen to have the person that speaks both English and Spanish fluently and works directly with them, so I was able to contact them. Now, what I want to get into now is in Kenya. We've been there good 20-some years now. When I first came to this church, Bernice and I came, we had started working in Kenya, and we had one school operating in Kisumu. We were allowed to have one school. We couldn't duplicate things or hold other schools. We just had the one. And we came to this church with the 29 students, and at that time, this church purchased our license to be able to operate schools all over Kenya. We've had at one time up to 21 schools operating at the same time. What happens is the schools are held in the local church, so that in that church has all the equipment or whatever is needed in order to work with these schools. And so we got a license, and that allowed us, to start other schools. Well, the group that we started with, Bishop Zephaniah, his son now is a coordinator. He had a alliance that he had started with over 60 churches under their umbrella. So at that point, when we got over there, there was already an organization set up, and we were able to start these schools in all different areas of Kenya, and it was just a wonderful blessing. At that time, before we had just the one school, we couldn't print or copy the books or anything, and it really didn't matter because we didn't have a copier. But since that time, we now have copiers. As a matter of fact, I had just sent funds over to repair the one that we have, because we have to make up all the books. But we have a printer that's doing that for us. So we print the books for each trimester. There's 5 trimesters, and but our office prints up all of the exams and everything that they have to take. So we purchased, once we purchased the license and had these schools, thank you. have gone from that one graduation of 29 back in, I'm not sure. It's been a while, and I tried to research some things, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I'm getting through our filing system a little better, but Bernice and I never filed in the same way, so we always had separate offices. It was just better that way. But she was a very organized person, and I thank God for that, because it helped me to figure out certain things. And right now, as of at this time, we have over 1,200 students graduated. We have 15 schools operating, and we have 387 students in class at this point. And this week, I should have had it by now, but we have a graduation from Consuma with 32 students, and there's 3 or 4 other classes students all ready to go. How this works is you start a school in an area. To begin with, we had to supply generators because most of them didn't have electricity, even in Kisumu at that time. Now, there's a few that still do. We go into very rural areas. We don't usually go into the big cities. Only Kisumu is the big city. All the rest of them are smaller areas. What we do is go in and set up a school. The people come, and then maybe 2 or 3 classes or more, we kind of saturate that area. And sometimes these students come from other areas, and they'll come to this, and then they get so excited about it, well, can you bring a school to our community? So that's what we've been doing, is moving schools from one area to another, and able to, the retention rate is wonderful. They don't leave or quit school unless they have died, of course, legitimate excuse. Then what we do is sometimes, especially like with the Indians in Kenya, they have to, the Maasai, they have cattle, sheep, and things of this nature, and so they have to go, if it's a heavy drought or something like that, the animals are dying, they have to move and take the animals to a different area. And so, but once you complete a section, there's 5 trimesters in 160 hours of training. Once you complete that, any individual one, they can start from that point in another school and continue on, and many of them come back to do that. But we retain about 95% of our students, and so it's once they realize they can have the opportunity to get this education, and it's a quality education. You've got Reinhard Bonnke, Joyce Myers, Dr. Jack Hayford, people from, most of the people are known around the world. And so they are able to bring just what they're anointed really in that special area that they're really anointed in. So every subject is taught by somebody anointed in that specific area. And that was such a blessing. Bishop Zephaniah, when we first went over, he had worked at schools, college universities, Christian universities, and he said what they would do is they would take the different professors that were there would take the subjects they were comfortable with, and then they would take subjects, whoever could fill in on this area or that area. And he said, what's so amazing about this, every area is taught by somebody totally qualified to bring the word and train the people up. So what we have done a couple of years ago, we decided, we've been for years, we worked over there in the background. We didn't go in as DeNike Ministries because schools could not be operated or diplomas issued or anything like that without a government license. We did issue them anyway. but we stayed in the background and we worked through the local church. And the local church was allowed to train their own people. So what that church was doing, whichever one we were at, they were training it. We were just, and so that it made it legal to a certain degree, except for issuing the diplomas. So about 2 or 3 years ago, the opportunity came up and we decided to apply for a license. And but right at that time, there was a cult over there, something like the Jones, where a bunch of people died and stuff. And so that really caused a problem for us, because they did not really want to give more licenses, so to speak. So we did manage, we did get we are a nonprofit organization now registered with the government of Kenya. They had tried to, the hardest thing was getting the name. They had tried New Wine Ministries, which was the name of that church. The government didn't like it. They tried 2 or 3 others. And then unbeknownst to me, they decided to submit the DeNike Theological School Limited. And within 3 weeks, they had approval. And so we're, as I said, it was as much of a surprise to me as it was to them, but seeing my son is going to be taking these over, and he's also a DeNike, it works out quite well. So we are totally legal in that aspect, and we've jumped through all the hoops to get the government licensing from the education department. And we've paid all the money and then some, actually, because there's just an expected extra benefit for the ones that are going to sign it. But they have been stalling, but we have, Tim has been very aggressive in that area, and he has also put us under the license of a company, or I'm not sure exactly how this works, but they oversee the Christian schools in Kenya. And so we are also under their umbrella now, so we can function. We're totally legal. We don't have our own personal license yet, but we're still in hopes that this is going to happen. And he's also taken courses that allows him to legally teach adults. So we're covered all the way through now, and we can function and be able to issue diplomas and operate. And this license is not just for our main school in Kisumu, it's for every school we operate anywhere in Kenya. And like I say, we've got 15 going right at the moment. Well, one just is going to be sending the paperwork, so they'll probably be starting another school anytime, and it's just up to them. So with that, what has happened recently is that in Kenya, they do not tax churches, which we would expect. But if you're not a licensed church, you get taxed. And most of the pastors in Kenya do not get paid. How they survive, even in the big church that we work with in Kisumu, they don't get paid. It's the tithes and offerings that pays the pastors. So when COVID came in, it was really a disaster, because people couldn't come together. They didn't have the funds to tithe to the church, and the pastors were really struggling. Actually, during that time, we were DeNike Ministries, through the help of this church, we were able to sponsor 12 pastors and their families, averaging about 5 apiece for 6 months. We were able to feed them and give them what they needed in order to be able to survive during that time. But it was just things come up like that, and when disasters such as that come in, and it really just devastates people because they can't, there's no way to do it. And then at that same time, because a lot of them have gardens and everything, so they can, grow their own food, but the locusts came in that same time. And so it devastated most of the country with their crops. And so it was an extremely serious thing. And for those 6 months, at least we were able to get the families through. And it was an interesting challenge. It's something that we didn't anticipate, but we've learned throughout the years that things just come up that you don't anticipate, and you have to be able to, somehow or other, God has foreseen this and allows us to get the funds that we need to take care of this specific problem. So recently, for the last, in the last 2 months, we have had 7 pastors from Kenya request transcripts. So now that this curriculum is totally recognized by the government in Kenya. And so by getting a transcript and sending it to them, they can take it to the government. Because their main concern, and I can understand this, is that the ones that are leading the churches have the training that is needed to qualify them to be a pastor. And now that we have this curriculum accepted by the government, they are willing to issue licenses to those governments and to those churches, and they won't be taxed. So it's a big issue, and it really is. We're coming to a point now where we can actually help truly make a difference, not only in their knowledge of the word, but help them with the government to be able to go ahead and be able to register and be accepted. And they're associate's degrees that we have trained them in and given, but they can go on up through a doctorate. If they stick just with ISOM, they can go up to a master's, and then they can go to any one of the universities we work directly with. Right now, Tim was who is the son of Bishop Zephaniah, is our coordinator right now. And great young man, very, very smart. He had a degree in trying to think of the word, but it's in environmental. And so he was able to, twice he was asked by the government to take a job. They wanted him to work for the government, which is a great opportunity in Kenya. It is an awesome opportunity, but twice he turned them down because he wanted to oversee the schools. So he is very committed to what he is doing. We have been able to get him a master's degree, and now he is working on his doctorate. And in Kenya, education is looked on as a very important thing. And of course, they were under the authority of England many years. So basically, what gives him the authority to do this? And so the way they look at it, that is the reason why you noticed when Pastor Terry had introduced me as Dr. DeNike. Both Bernice and I have had doctorates for about 12 years. And the reason neither of us wanted to do it. We had been studying, we had just gotten our master's, and we were quite happy. Didn't really want to go through it. But this one from one head of the Covenant Theological Seminary out of Greensboro, North Carolina, he suggested because of that this would give us the credibility we needed for them. And it did. It's helped. I've had some people ask me, well, how is this school going to benefit me, and what qualifies you to be able to do that? And so by saying that, it gives them the impression that I know what I'm doing. So it's at many times education, it's up to that individual person. I don't look at it as I look at it more as it's given me a credibility with other people that allows me to function and do a better job at what God has put me in. So I don't normally use it. It's on our card. And when I sign the diplomas, I sign it as Dr. DeNike. But the term, most people don't call me that, don't even know I have one.
I know.
Yes, you do. I had to sign a thing for the independent assemblies for pastor, so I had to sign it as Dr. DeNike. So it's what I really, the purpose of being here today and is just to let you know that this church has been an integral part of allowing DeNike Ministries to do what we have done and accomplished. We're a small ministry, but yet we have got, with all the students that are in and have graduated, we're close to 1,600 students. That's a lot of students, and we have found that they don't just take it to have that knowledge. They go out, they either become leaders within their own church, or they become missionaries, or whatever job it is, they are there because they want to be able to use it. Most of them cannot afford it. When we originally started, it was $3 a trimester. There's 5 trimesters, so that was $15. And of course, we paid for the graduation and everything, cap and gown, and they get their diploma. And but now they've had to raise through ISOM, so it's up to $10 a trimester. After COVID came, they were struggled to $3. $10 just wasn't going to happen. So most everything we do through scholarships now, in order to be able to meet them. What we do is we ask for $100. That'll put a student through all 5 trimesters. That will give them a cap and gown graduation, and it will feed them. We've had to start feeding them because many of them come to class and they don't have the funds to bring a lunch with them. So we've started having to do that now. And it's been amazing, the expenses that have increased, but yet somehow or other we've been able to, at times I'm looking at this and more's going out than coming in, but then again it seems to, it gradually comes around, and it makes a difference for what to be able to meet these needs. We've had many different things over the years. A couple of years ago, we had a young man that came to the school, one of the schools. He was a Maasai. Didn't even speak Kiswahili, which is the national language, and absolutely no English. And now we have also got our classes in English, Kiswahili, and in the Ma language, which is the Maasai language. It's been able to be translated now, and what a difference that makes for people when they can hear the word in their own language and listen to it. And so we've been able, but this young man was so excited about the Lord and started bringing in people, and they worked directly with him, of course, because he couldn't read the Kiswahili or the English, so but he was able to pass. They got behind him, and we got funds in to send him to language school. So he has learned Kiswahili and he's learning English so that he can be able to continue to function. And he was coming from 20 kilometers away on a bicycle that he ended up pushing most of the time. So they wanted to get him a new bicycle, but it turned out that we were able to get him a motorcycle. So he is now traveling, but he's just on fire for the Lord. And it's so exciting when you see people that begin to understand, but most of them, like I say, they've never even thought that they could possibly go to a school. And I have a story here that was really neat. Of those 7 transcripts that I have sent out, that's now over in Kenya, 4 of them were from a graduation in 2018 from Molo. And they share a story about how they were looking for a good Bible school. And they had been searching around and come to find out their denomination, which I'm not sure which one it was had their own Bible school. But evidently they didn't think that much about it, or think that of how good it was. So they sent a letter off actually directly to ISOM, and I got a call from them and saying, hey, this is what they were saying. But they had come back and after graduation to their community. It was a town about 20 kilometers away from Molo, where it was a bigger size, not a real big city, but a half decent size. And there were several churches in it. Well, they came back to their church, and the leaders were very upset that they didn't go to their own denominational training. And so they stayed for a little while, but then they decided to kick them out. They excommunicated them. And so what they did is the 4 of them decided to start their own church. They did, and now it's the biggest church in their town, even bigger than the one that they got excommunicated from. But they shared how they had gone through when they first came and discovered this school in Molo. They just came in and they were led to sit in the class the first time. Joyce Myers was speaking on wilderness. Can't think of the rest of it, but it had wilderness in it. But they were thinking about it, and they got so excited about it, they signed up for the next class that came in, and they graduated and just really have so much enthusiasm that their church is growing strong. And now they want to register their church so they don't have to pay taxes and be able to, but it was just neat reading that, how excited they were to find a real Bible school, one that would train them with the knowledge that they desired, and then be able to register it now. And they found out that we had our licensing, and so that we could do it. So it was really exciting to get this letter. It just showed just a confirmation of the quality of what we are sending them versus what they are getting in a lot of their schools. So it's been a really an awesome time. We've had ups and downs. I got called from Tim, and transmission is going in our vehicle. So that is in the repair shop now to be fixed. Over there, it's a Toyota. It was a top-of-the-line Toyota. All the Parliament members drive these. We had gotten a used one, and it was in perfect shape, had about 40,000 miles on it, and the guy was a banker, and I think why he traded it in is because the tires were bad. And he had the wherewithal to do it. So we got a beautiful vehicle, and everything on it is working great. It's 8 years old. But they were thinking, well, we could trade it in. Well, we couldn't afford to buy a new one, and if you buy a used one over there, the roads are terrible. And this is heavy duty, so to speak. It's 4-wheel drive. It's got even got air conditioning in it. I doubt they ever use it, but it's got air conditioning. And so we've just got that fixed, got our copier fixed so that we can be able to print all the exams and everything. And so God is blessing, but it's coming in, it's just, like I say, it's not that Bernice and I knew what we were doing, but God did. And when he just seemed to put us in the right place at the right time, and then he would give us thoughts or ideas, and then we would share them with each other and look at each other, and is that really what he's saying? But we learned to be able to really, when we came into unity, we would just jump into the middle of it, and it's worked. It's worked. And again, never fear you're going to be called as a missionary. If you're uncomfortable, he'll make you comfortable before he calls you. He won't tell you what he's doing, but he'll make you comfortable and be able to do that. I've shared a few times where I was a carpenter most of my life. Custom homes, remodeling, electrical, plumbing, any area of it. And I wasn't much of one for speaking. And so I didn't, but I knew I had to. And about 6 months or a year into going and visiting churches, all of a sudden I realized this is fun. I really enjoy doing this. And it gave me he had prepared me without ever giving me a clue. If he'd have told me in advance, which he won't do, you'll probably run the opposite direction. So, but he will prepare you in the background, getting you ready to be able to do what he has prepared you for and feel joy and peace rather than fear. Because fear is not anything to do with God. We all know that and stuff. And so we need to be able to realize that God, again, is when he sends us out, it's imperative. And we need to remember that it was an urgency for him. And so he is preparing us for whatever it is, and we're all quite usable. And it doesn't mean you have to go to a foreign country. You can be usable right in your backyard, your neighbors, wherever it is, but to have that peace of knowing I can take that step and know that I've got somebody behind me, guiding me and directing me, and being able to not have to think I'm out here all alone by myself in a strange place doing something, and that can be very scary. And it's only his peace that gives us that strength to be able to do it. And I'm just sharing basically what Bernice and I had gone through. Because we, as I said, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. We weren't teachers. Now we're running Bible schools. Got the credibility now for those that are concerned in that area. And it just was a learning experience. It's like a parent with a new baby. They don't come with instructions. And you don't, so you have to learn by experience what to do, what not to do. And we learned quite a bit, and I always try to learn it the first time. I hate doing things the second time around, but but when it comes to the third time, then there is a problem, because somehow or other you're not listening. So it's just, let's see. All right, well, I'm going to get you out of here a little bit earlier today. But I just want to thank you so much for being willing. I really just wanted to share what this church is an integral part of, and how integral that part has been to the success of what we're doing in Kenya. And sometimes it doesn't look like much is going on, but then all of a sudden, we'll probably in the next have 4 or 5 schools graduating in the next 3 or 4 months, which is great. Things slowed down during the COVID. They couldn't meet, or all of this type of stuff. So we had to rethink our process and everything. And then last year we funded a conference, 3-day conference, and we brought all our leaders in from all the churches, and that rejuvenated them greatly. They got excited, and I talked with them each day. It was the best time for them was around 11 o'clock in the morning, which is not 11 o'clock here. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's, fortunately, I'm more on that schedule than, this is strange for me. My functioning in the morning is not good. And so, you get afternoon, evening, I'm ready to go. I'm wide awake, ready to do all sorts of things. So, so to keep focused, but I was able to, just talk with them and encourage them and share how important what they were doing is, because and plus it's giving them leadership in their own churches. When these students graduate, they are ready and have the knowledge to take part in that church or whatever they decide to, wherever they decide to go. So it's training is an awesome thing. It's not for everybody. When God is leading you, you know what you got to do. But I just know, I realize that with the Great Commission, it's to go, therefore, to make disciples, teaching them, which is evangelizing them, bringing them to the Lord, baptizing them, and then teaching them, which is discipling them. Because you have to have all 3 together to grow up more disciples. It's an integral part of the whole system. And if you just evangelize and don't encourage them to learn or to be taught, then you're missing an integral part of what that whole commission is, and the importance of what we need to be a part of. And so actually I changed opinions. I had one fella, he was a strong evangelist, real neat fella, but he never really understood the importance of the discipleship. And finally, after some years, he called me up and wanted to know how he could get started with the schooling. And because he realized he's bringing these people to the Lord, if you don't let them know who they are and that God expects certain things of us, then you're leaving out a whole section, an important part of life. And we used to go to churches and have speakers with us, and knew the people were all saved, but they were preaching a salvation message, and it was confusing us. We thought, well, there's something wrong with us. Why are we thinking that way? But then realized we were the disciplers. We get people saved so we can teach them. That's our purpose. And so that's what we need to realize too. What area of it is ours? How can God use us in a specific area to be able to, and is it more leading towards training, or is it more leading towards getting them saved? If it's getting them saved, make sure you put them with someone that can teach them. And I think I've about got everything covered here. So I will step down, and thank you all. I really appreciate it.